Hey guys, it's Yamina, your host of In My Beauty Bag, the beauty of business with balance. I'm so happy to be here with you all again for episode 8. Today we're talking about the legal must haves for your business growth. My background is in law, so I'm super excited to talk about this. But before we jump right on in, of course, I want you to take a moment to ground yourself by taking a deep breath in through your nose and out through your mouth. Get in a good, comfortable position and to make sure that you have a pen, paper, or whatever you use to take notes because you're going to need it today. Before we jump in, last episode we talked about some of the challenges that you may face with scaling your business. And that's, of course, maybe some mindset changes that you'll need to go through, or um, just different business processes and efficiencies and the people that you work with that you need in order to grow. And so we talked about that last week, but this week we're going to take it a step further and talk about your legal needs as you start, grow, and scale your business. Legal is always important, and I know a lot of people, especially new entrepreneurs, kind of shy away from the legal requirements of starting a business because it's costly. Of course, I know lawyers are expensive, right? But neglecting those legal essentials could lead to more costly mistakes down the road, more liabilities, more roadblocks. And so you want to make sure that before you get deep into your business that you're addressing your legal needs. As the lead consultant at Integral Start Consulting, I always tell my clients, especially my new clients, it's better to start off the right way before you get too deep and then you have to make those changes. So even if you are a sole proprietor, a single member LLC, make sure that you get all of those startup contracts, agreements, and just requirements, right? Compliance requirements squared away before you get too far into your business, because this really helps you as you grow, because your legal needs will change as you go along. So part one, startup versus scaling. What changes legally, right? And so of course when you start you're going to have some legal requirements, but as you grow and scale you'll also have some different legal requirements. And here are some. So get your pen and paper, your note taking materials ready. Your business structure. Your business structure may evolve as you grow. Again, many of us, especially if you're a solopreneur, you have a very small team, maybe a partner. A lot of people start off with things like being LLCs, either single member or multi member, or you may be a sole proprietor, means that you are the business and the business is you. But as you grow your business, you start to think about some of those legal challenges that come up, one of which can be some tax situations, or maybe your business is looking for some funding or investors, and then you think about the structure of your business, and so then you decide your business needs to pivot from an LLC or a sole proprietorship to maybe something like an S-Corp or a C-Corp. Many times people go from LLC to S Corp because it gives you some of those same tax benefits of being able to be a pass through entity, which means that you pass those business revenues and expenses off to the owners. But then you also get to pay yourself with a W 2. And so, a lot of times when we are just living lives as small business owners, especially when it's just a few people, a lot of times when you're applying for a loan, maybe you're applying for a mortgage, a car loan, People want to see your finances where you work. And so having a S Corp, you can W-2 yourself, which means you pay yourself as an employee for the work that you do within the business. And then that really helps you with those record keeping, the record keeping, right? But again, you also have those other tax benefits. And then you may think about becoming a C Corp. And so those are just your regular corporations. But you don't have to be a large body, a large entity in order to be a C Corp. A lot of startups become C Corps because when they are looking for investors, investors need you to have a C Corp because that helps with, shares, getting shares from the business or equity. It helps with the control of the business and how that works because a C corporation, unlike other entities, it's like its own person, right? And so there's no real liabilities on the owners, and so those investors want to have that minimal risk, and so they want you to have a C corp, but for so many different reasons. Of course, definitely for tax benefits and such. So you may start there when you're growing, you're starting and growing, maybe see that you need to have a different legal structure. But other things can be your compliance becomes more complex. So you may have more employees, bigger contracts, and maybe you're scaling across states or even internationally. And these introduce new legal obligations. So for me, as the owner of Yanni Beauty, as we expanded domestically into internationally, especially going from like the US market to the European market, there were different obligations that we had to have in beauty. Beauty is a lot more highly regulated in Europe than it is in the US. And so that means different packaging, different taxes like that we don't have here in the US, and just different compliance things and regulations that we had to have. But of course, this is like that in different businesses. So as you're expanding to different places, you may find that you have some different compliance issues, or not even issues. You're just kind of prepared for those different compliance requirements, right? This is one thing I love to get, especially new entrepreneurs and business owners, especially who are truly building brands, is that in a intellectual property protections, right? Your IP truly matters, and it matters even more as you grow. And so it's best to kind of start out thinking about how you'll protect your brand when you first start. As soon as you see that you have some traction, you want to think about things like trademarks, copyrights, patents. These become necessary, right? You don't want to build a brand, build a business that then somebody can just take the name and just steal the entire, idea, or even just the look of the business to confuse consumers, right? And so these are the things that you should be thinking about now, and it should not be an afterthought. And yes, people ask me all the time. I just had this question recently. Can you trademark by yourself? Can you copyright by yourself? Can you do patents? And yes, you can. It's very much possible. But if you are not a person who really truly understands like legalese, you don't really understand the contracts and all of those types of things, it's just best to get an attorney, a professional who can handle these things for you. Because the one thing is, when you apply for something like a trademark, if you do it wrong and it's denied, it's not refundable. So if you're thinking about finances, just make sure you're keeping things like that at top of mind. And then your contracts may become more complex, right? Because you have more risk as your business grows. as you scale, your contracts need to be airtight. I don't know if I've mentioned in all of these episodes that when I was in law school and when I got out, my favorite thing to do was transactional things. I love to read contracts. I love to make sure they're airtight, red line them, and actually help people negotiate their contracts. And so you want to make sure those contracts and those agreements are airtight for people like your vendors, for your employees. You want to have NDAs in place, all of these things. And it's the more you grow, the more you're going to need airtight contracts, right? So moving on to part two of this, some of the legal essentials for scaling your business is one, business structure and taxes. When and why to switch from LLC to S-Corp or C-Corp, right? And so we talked about that. Maybe you want to switch because you are looking for investments. Maybe you want a pass-through entity. Maybe you're looking just for some tax benefits. And so those are the times when you want to think about if it's time to switch your sole proprietorship to an LLC, to an S Corp, to a C Corp, anything in that nature, I will just say my own personal preference and things that I like to tell people is I don't think people should be sole proprietors too long. And the reason for that is a sole proprietor is the business is the sole proprietor, which means, yes, if revenues come in, all of the money is yours, but as those expenses come in, they're all your expenses. But also, if some kind of liability, like you get sued, your business gets sued, that just means you're getting sued, right? So if your business loses everything, so do you. So it's best to separate those things as soon as possible. You think about those tax implications such as revenue and your payroll taxes increase. I remember when I first had W-2 employees and the sticker shock, right, of paying out all of those taxes on their wages, because of course you're taking taxes from their paychecks that they cover, but the employer also has to pay their share of taxes. So it can be a shell shocker, especially when you're first starting to hire employees. And then you want to think about registered agents, and especially if you are a multi-state business or an international business, who represents your business in different states or in different countries as like your registered agent, right? uh, Part two, contracts and agreements. As your business grows, you need contracts again that protect you and set real clear expectations. I founded Contractor AI, which is in beta right now, and it was created to help people generate legally sound contracts in minutes, right? Ensuring that there were no critical terms missed, but also to save business owners, small business owners, the people I work with all the time, even myself, time and money, because I know again that a lawyer can be get expensive, right? And especially if you have to put them on retainer. But really thinking about using, some different tools to save you time and money, like Contractor AI. You want to think about other, besides just your regular contracts that we talk about, make sure you have things like partnership agreements if you're bringing on investors or co founders. This really helps you set some clear expectations on ownership, equity terms. Think about employee versus contractor agreements, because again, your growing team means you have new labor laws, you're protecting your company interests, things like that. And just before I jump off of this, one thing I see all the time is, also being in tax for a really long time, and I work for the IRS, that a lot of people really get confused about the employee and the independent contractor, and what's the difference. So an employee is a W-2 employee. They get paid, they work set amount of hours, you have the control, you pay them for their work, you take taxes. An independent contractor is just that. They're a person or entity that provides a service for you or your business, and you pay them this service fee, but you don't really control what they do and how. And a lot of people mix those two up. They call people independent contractors because they don't want to pay taxes, but yet and still treat them like employees. But I just want you to really get into that and think about that as you are expanding your team. So we're going to move on to part three, and that's how to get the legal support without breaking the bank, right? And so we talked about those different contracts like partnership agreements, employee contractor agreements. We talked about, trademarking your business name, your logo, or whatever that is, copywriting your content. You can copyright your digital content, especially since we are in the era of content creators. You can even, if you have some original content that's digital, you can also copyright that. And also patents. When you are protecting things like an invention or a very unique product, you should be looking into patents. And then also, all of us at some point will be looking at compliance and risk management, right? And so that means like data protection laws, privacy laws. So if you operate a website, which many of us do as business owners, you want to, maybe have some agreements or that written out terms of use on your website about how you collect customer data. Is that compliant, right? And so, I know I've heard people copy and paste sometimes, but you need to make sure that information truly represents what your business is doing, right? What they're doing with the customer data, what other third parties are accessing your customer data. You may think about insurance. I tell people all the time, your business, even if you operate from home, should have some kind of at least general liability insurance. And it's super, super cheap, right? You can get general liability for like $20 a month for like $1 million, right, of protection. So make sure you're thinking about your insurance needs. And even with your insurance, as you grow, you're definitely going to need that, because as we open, for instance, our retail stores at Yanni Beauty, they're not going to let us sign a lease without knowing that we have, property insurance, liability insurance. We needed umbrella policies that kind of cover everything if one of the other policies didn't cover it. So as you're growing, that those insurance needs will, change and grow with you as well. And then, of course, like your HR and employee laws, how to legally protect your business when you're hiring, firing, and actually handling those workplace issues, which, as you grow, you will have a workplace issue, right? Even if you have the best business, that's just like life, right? But going back to how to get the legal support for all of those things without breaking the bank. So DIY or hire a lawyer. Every person I've worked with has asked that. Can I do it myself, or should I hire someone? Can I use a contract template, or should I hire a legal professional? And I will say this as plainly as I possibly can. If you are 100% okay with the legal dialogue, right? The legalese are, do you understand what terms mean in contracts? Because a lot of times they mean something different in your everyday, word, right? And so if you are comfortable with a contract, truly understanding what it means, there are many times that you can do it yourself. But if you are a person who, first of all, is not going to read through an entire contract, never do it yourself. If you're a person who you don't really understand every single word, don't do it yourself. Because the difference in a contract and everyday life is, in everyday life, if we don't understand a word, we can kind of pick up things from context clues. But in contracts, every word matters. There's no just fluff, right? It's no fluff in a contract. Every word means something, every word matters, so you need to understand everything. And then you can decide if you want to use a template, or if you want to hire an attorney, or you may even, decide that you want to do a combination of both. Maybe you want to use a template or write your own agreement and then have a legal professional review it for you. But then there are also affordable legal resources, right? So I talked about Contractor AI and how it helps you generate and review and manage your legal documents, right? It saves you that time. It kind of reduces those legal risks, but it is AI, right? And so, again, you'll still have to read your contracts, you'll still have to understand, but it definitely is a very inexpensive way to get you what you need fast. But think about things like Contractor AI, but other tools online that may be able to help you save some time and money and energy. But I also encourage everyone to build a relationship with a business attorney. And that's just it. So you'll have a place to go to ask questions. As you scale, you'll have that person and their team on your side. So even if you only have an attorney now that you keep in communication with, maybe you pay them for a consultation here and there, it's always good to really set someone up for your future growth, right? Because then you have someone you trust. Because we all know that when it comes to like your money, your finances, and all the legal things, you need a team of people that you truly trust. So make sure you're starting to look into those things now. Before we go, let's just go over some of the key takeaways. And that really is the main takeaway from this is that scaling means more legal responsibilities. And I always encourage you not to wait until there's a problem to fix it. And so saying this is back to what I said at the beginning. Understand your legal needs ahead of time. Start your structure, your legal structure at the beginning. So as you grow, you're expanding on your legal needs, but you are not trying to fix the problem or the house is already burning down. You're not trying to spray it off with water and hope you can salvage it. You want to make sure that you're starting all of your legal compliance regulations, tax, all of those processes as you're thinking about starting the business. Don't just think about the product or service, think about the business and how you need to protect it. My challenge for the week, just like every week, this challenge is I want you to audit your business. I want you to write down any legal gaps that you need to address. So think about where you are now. Think about what you have. Like, do you have all of your contracts in place for your employees, your contractors, your NDAs, your legal structure, your articles, all of those things. But then if you're in a different space, maybe you're not in a startup, you're already growing, are those contracts growing with you, and are they preparing you for scale? So if they are not, I want you to write down where the gaps are and pick at least one thing that you can address this week, whether it's DIY, whether it's hiring an attorney, or whether it's using programs like Contractor AI. You want to make sure that you are able to start to address those needs now so they don't cause a problem in the future. Before you go, just like always, I encourage you to listen to all of the episodes. Every episode is something good around business, our wellness, our mindsets. Um, and it doesn't matter what stage you are in business or whether you're product or service based. So go ahead, if you jumped in on this episode, go ahead and listen to the other episodes. But also subscribe to the channel wherever you're listening to. So if you're listening to this on YouTube or Spotify or wherever you are, make sure you follow the podcast so you always know when a next episode is dropping, and be sure to share, because sometimes some information does not land with you because maybe it is not your thing at that moment, but it may be another aspiring entrepreneurs, one that is going from the startup phase to the growing phase or growing to scaling. And so they may find this helpful. So be sure to share this on your social media platforms with your friends and your other small business community. I invite you to apply to join Contractor AI. It is in beta, but I am opening up for an open beta. So I'd love for you to try it. Draft some of your legal agreements. Super, super cheap. Contractor, and it is CONTRACTR AI.com. So go ahead and apply to join us there. But in everything, I want you to be well. I want you to always prioritize yourself and your mindset as you go from your startup journey to your scaling glow up, right? So until next time, I'm Yamina, and I will see you in episode